to our final briefing on climate change, resilience through agricultural water reuse. I guess Michael Bannon will be speaking on behalf of Professor Degnan's group.
Awesome. Okay. Hello, I am Michael Bannon and I represent the Hudson Valley Water Reuse Team. I'd like to thank my team members, our manager, Dana Krieger, and Deputy Manager, Catherine Lynn, along with our faculty advisor, Nancy Degnan, and our client, Carrie Capuco, the Director of Strategic Operations for the Water Reuse Association, for their help and contributions towards our project. For our agenda this morning, I'll highlight the importance of water and define water reuse and introduce our client, the Water Reuse Association. Following this, I'll review our project objectives and provide some background about the Hudson River Valley region and why our client asked us to focus there. Then I'll discuss our research approaches and conclude with our findings and recommendations. So to begin, as many of you know, water is everything. It is critical to our nation's health, strength, security, and resilience. But the solutions available to manage water and its availability are often very complex. Climate change and climate variability pose increasing risks for water security. Water reuse can be a valuable tool in achieving and sustaining that security. But what exactly does the term water reuse mean? Actually, we found that defining the term was crucial in our project to encompass the fullest scope of water reuse. And as you can see in this graph, water reuse, also known as water recycling, is the process of intentionally capturing wastewater, stormwater, saltwater, gray water, and cleaning it as needed for a designated beneficial water reuse, such as irrigation, drinking, groundwater recharge, or watershed restoration. Our client, the Water Reuse Association, is the only trade association focused on advancing laws, policy, and funding to increase water reuse. The association's members include utilities, businesses, government agencies, and non-for-profits in 38 US states and 11 countries. In the US, the association's projects are dedicated to increasing water resilience in water-stressed areas, such as California, Florida, and Arizona, but there are obvious challenges in meeting the human and ecological demand for fresh water. To broaden their impact, the association asked us to explore water reuse in the water-rich area of the Hudson River Valley. The reason? Climate change and variability likely pose risks for water-abundant areas. This is where water isn't looked at as a disappearing source, but may become less dependable, specifically for farmers and wineries, in a future with a more variable climate. The association would like us to get out ahead of these risks and help mitigate them through water reuse policies and practices. Our team's final output and project consist of a report and recommendations for water reuse in the food and wine production sectors of the valley. These sectors are important in economic and environmental terms to support the association's efforts to advance legislation in New York, as well as water reuse in abundant areas throughout the country. We can now take a look at some background on the Hudson River Valley for some important context. The valley is a rich agricultural region with around 3,500 farms, ranging from dairy to fruit orchards, and covering over 500,000 acres. There are 35 vineyards of varying size, so the valley is considered also a large wine producing region, and the farms and vineyards are typically family owned and multi-generational. The overall economic impact of this part of New York is approximately $42 billion each year. And in addition to the 10 counties shown on the map, New York City also depends on the Valley region and watershed to meet the water needs of approximately 8 to 14 million citizens on a daily basis. And although it's a water abundant region, it is expected to face increased climate variability, such as patterns of heavy rainfall intertwined with drier periods, along with the potential impacts on water quality and temperature increases, and along with sea level rise that are occurring at faster rates than the global or even national average, leading to potential flooding around the Hudson River. Along with this, the droughts in the summer months can impact the growing seasons for food and wine production. And building stronger water reuse policies and practices in the Hudson River Valley is important for climate change resilience in both the near and long term, and is a crucial part of sustainability. In order to organize our approach to our research and in consultation with our client, we organize into 4 main pillars: policy, food and wine production, technology, and key actors. This framework helped guide our strategy for our research and analysis throughout the semester. So the secondary research team reviewed over 35 reports and articles, including an in-depth read of existing New York State government websites, water policies, and regulations. They also reviewed a variety of other sources such as case studies, local news, and websites. And the secondary research helped identify stakeholders within the region and informed the development of questions for our primary research. The primary research team, with the input from the secondary team and the client, identified stakeholders and experts for this project. Specifically, the team identified 51 stakeholders and experts, refined the list to 39 potential interviewees, and then conducted 15-hour-long semi-structured interviews guided by 10 key questions to gain a better understanding of water reuse for our client. Our next step was to probe the data and see if we could refine our findings to suggest some immediate recommendations for advancing water reuse in the Hudson River Valley. Our analytical team conducted a stakeholder analysis and a SWOT analysis. For our stakeholder analysis, this helped rank our stakeholders as champions or leaders for water reuse practices and legislation. Specifically, the regulators set requirements and controls for water reuse strategies and mainly consist of government agencies. The influencers educate on the topic of water reuse and were predominantly institutions and universities. The user and owners are willing to make capital investments in maintenance for water reuse and consisted of the farms and wineries within the region. And the implementers design, consult, or help with the installation of water reuse and were mainly made up of nonprofit and for-profit organizations. So now we can take a look at the SWOT analysis as well. In addition to the stakeholder analysis, the team conducted a SWOT analysis focused on the point of view from our client. The SWOT analysis identifies the strengths and weaknesses for the Water Reuse Association's perspective and the threats and opportunities focused on the stakeholders' perspective associated with our 4 pillars of research. As we shared already, the strengths include the experience with designing water reuse regulation and convening effective partnerships. And some important weaknesses include little experience in policy and regulation for water abundant areas, accompanied by a limited network within the Hudson River Valley. Our findings from our research helped inform our threats and opportunities. Among the threats are a mixed understanding of water reuse definitions and applications, the necessity to build and maintain trust, underfunded mandates, and a lack of transparency on the cost of technology. But the opportunities are very exciting. The Hudson River Valley is a climate and sustainability motivated area, and existing stormwater and wastewater practices can inform water reuse. And along with this, there are a number of longstanding associations, research institutes, and community coalitions already working within the region, allowing for farm and wine production's sustainable practices that can be used for water reuse pilot programs. So based on our research and analysis of findings, we reorganized into 3 main pillars and integrated the key actors across these pillars. So let's turn to our recommendations. For our policy pillar, we recommend that our client first work with high priority regulators, such as the New York City Department of Environmental Protection and the US Department of Agriculture. First, to begin designing regulation and legislation for water reuse within the Hudson River Valley. Specifically, we suggest avoiding underfunded mandates and focusing on economic incentives and the benefits of sustainability. These will be potential options to target as sources of funding or grants for potential reuse projects. Along with this, our recommendation is to design and promote pilot programs for water reuse to demonstrate the potential economic and sustainability benefits for water reuse throughout the Hudson Valley. For the food and wine pillar, our recommendation focuses on the influencers, owners, and users identified within the stakeholder analysis, such as Grassroots Farm and Cornell Cooperative Extension. We recommend that the association partner to customize education and outreach for the Hudson River Valley, particularly given reuse as a leverage against climate variability. Second, to design and deliver that education through and with longstanding community members to build relationships, maximize trust levels, and define the mutual benefits. And finally, work with farmers to gain a better understanding of existing technology for storm and wastewater management to inform water reuse and determine the scope and scale of water reuse within the Hudson River Valley. And finally, for our technology pillar, the implementers and influencers identified within the stakeholder analysis were the Columbia Water Center and the Watershed Agricultural Council. And we recommend that the association continue to engage with universities and research institutes to inform and even help identify appropriate technology for the water abundant region of the Hudson River Valley. Second, develop a survey to better understand the potential costs with technology and the incentives for investing in water reuse technology tied to the risks associated with climate variability. And finally, to integrate findings on technology with the policy and regulation design to ensure more effective practices, return on investments, and more customized education and outreach. In summary, we hope that our recommendations result in greater farmer and community engagement, along with increased stakeholder engagement and reuse practices. In doing so, the Hudson River Valley can experience increased water security and climate resilience, helping to ensure human and ecological well-being now and for the future. Thank you so much, and I look forward to taking any questions at this time.
Thank you. Very nice work. I see Celeste has a question for you.
Hi, Michael. Great presentation. I have a question for your team. How politically feasible do you think water reuse is in the region?
Yes, so for this report and recommendations, this was very novel and exploratory research because the Reuse Association has not looked in a water abundant region. So we found that the interest is there, but since this is a novel research and the legislation is not there yet, with time, hopefully the engagement is there. So with time, it seems politically feasible.
Okay, other questions?
Cecilia?
Hi, Michael. Great presentation. This is more of a general question. Were there any other potential opportunities that you weren't able to look into and explore with your team, given the time constraint that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, so there were two sectors that we weren't able to look into, but were able to dive into a little bit, but would be great for further research. And that was specifically water reuse potentials within restaurants and the water reuse potentials within golf courses within the region. Along with this, we were able to find one case study specifically on equine farms using water reuse. So there were a couple different areas that we were looking at, but weren't able to dive completely into. Thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Hi, Michael, really interesting presentation. And I was just wondering if what the main differences are when you're looking at a water-rich region like this compared to a water-scarce region, like somewhere in California, for example, and whether it's all the same approaches and policy approaches, or whether it's a completely different sort of approach and tactics.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much. I feel like one of the main differences that we looked at when figuring out the aspect of the exploratory research was this aspect of, is the engagement there? Because this isn't necessarily needed currently. So it was more of figuring out climate variability, specifically like each different aspects of climate variability within the region really factored in, such as the rainfall and the heavy droughts affecting the growing periods. In other not water abundant states, they are already dealing with this and having to deal with it real time, while this allowed us to kind of look at all the different options and see what could be the best technology, what could be the best financial and each different aspect, so that the actual organizations and farms and wineries would be able to figure out what's best for them for the future. Thank you so much.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, well, thank you. And let me thank all of the groups and faculty and all of the guests who were here today. This is a terrific set of projects, wonderful briefings. And as I said earlier, really the culmination of one of the most complicated and novel years the program has had. From 2002 till today, every year we've had these presentations of client projects, and this group did a spectacular job under what is without question the most difficult circumstances we've had. So I can congratulate you for doing that. This is a group that has been working very diligently through these technologies. Unfortunately, have never had the experience of being together face to face as a group. We will do that when this pandemic's over, I guarantee it. I hope you can all come in for the weekend that we will have a celebration and maybe even some substantive discussion as well about our field. We are in an interesting time period, as everybody knows, with a new administration in Washington, and with, I think, the real opportunity for progress on so many of the issues that are so important to us. So again, first, I want to thank everybody for the work and really the incredible effort over this year. This is the last time we'll be gathering as a group like this, except for commencement activities. But this is our last substantive discussion. And I have to say that you've done a really impressive job. And I think on behalf of the faculty that are here and the rest of the faculty as well, I want to congratulate you. And let's stay in touch as you hit the job market. I'm personally committed to helping every one of you, and I know the rest of the faculty and our alums will help as well. So let's not be shy about that. Let's put all of the things you've learned to work. The planet needs it, and the society needs it. So anyway, have a great rest of your morning, and congratulations. All right, take care, everybody.